Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yamuna Tira Vamnachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yasodanandana Braja Chararanjanan. Yashodanandana Braja Chararanjanan. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yashodanandana Braja Chararanjanan. Yashodanandana Braja Chararanjanan. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kalachandji, Radha Kalachandji Radhe. Jaya Radha Kalachandji, Radha Kalachandji Radhe. Jaya Jaya Jagannath, 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 Jaya Jaya Jagannath. Jaya Jaya Baladev, 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 Jaya Jaya Baladev. Jaya Jaya Subhadra, 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 Jaya Jaya Subhadra, Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Gornitai, 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 Jaya Jaya Gornitai. Nitai Gora Haribol, 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 Nitai Goro Haribol. Nitai Goro Haribol, 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 Nitai Goro Haribol. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8, text 19. The lead-in to this is from the last sentence of the purport of text 18. No, listen. It's a lead-in from text 18. Are you my checker today? No, you're good. But before we read from text, always like to approach it with reverence. Om Gnana Timarandasya Gnanjana Shivakaya Chakshu Militanena Tashmai Shri Guruve Namah Yamano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swami Vidana Vanchakalpatarudis Chakri Pasindhavya Chapti Tinam Pavanavya Vaishnavya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First I have to acknowledge, I don't know if anyone really feels qualified to go through the scriptures, that they're so sacred. So it is an honor to always be able to be available or to have the opportunity to read from the scriptures. And my prayer is that there be something that the Lord allows to come from this that helps you. Otherwise, I should not speak. So I've been given an opportunity, as all of us should have an opportunity to speak the nectar. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And as I was saying earlier, text 19 leads into the description from text 18, that last sentence. And it says that checking curtain Well, it says, it talks about the energy of Maya, and it controls a limited vision of rebellious souls. This is ordinarily, we don't do this, but then there are no hard and fast rules in leading to the nectar, but it just emphasizes that text 19 is explaining the energy of Maya. So, Nidya Jevana Kanchanam Agna Huksaja Anyaya Lalakshya She Muda Drisha Nato Nadyadaro Yakta Maya Jevani Kachanam Agna Hoksajam Anyaya Nalakshaye Muda Drisha Nato Nara Nat Yadaro Yakta Maya Javene Kachanam Ajnam Hoksajam Anyaya Nailakshaya Mudadrisha Nado Nadyadaro Yata. Please feel free to tackle this one. Any of you. Please repeat. Maya Javanaki Janam Ajna Hoksajam Ayayam Nailakshashe Mudadrisha Nato Nadyadaro Yata Maya Javanika Nachayam Agna Huksaja Anyayam Nalaksha She Muda Drisha Nato Nadyadaro Yataha. Maya Javani Kayachanam Ajan Huksajam Avavyam Nalaksha Se Mudadrisha Nato Nadyadaro Yata. Maya, deluding. Javanika, curtain. Achanam, covered by. Agna, ignorant. Adhuksajam, beyond the range of material conception, transcendental. Avyam, irreproachable. Na, not. Lakshaya, observed. Mudadrisha, by the foolish observer. Nataha, artist. Natyadara, dressed as a player. Yataha, as. And the translation here is being beyond the range of limited sense perception. You are eternally irreproachable. You are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So for the purification, we'll repeat again. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. And the purport here is, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna affirms that less intelligent persons mistake him to be an ordinary man like us, and thus they deride him. The same is confirmed herein by Queen Kuti. The less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. Such persons are known as asuras. The asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. When the Lord himself appears amongst us as Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha, or in his original form as Krishna, he performs many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. As we shall find in the 10th canto of this great literature, Lord Sri Krishna exhibited his humanly impossible activities even from the days of his lying on the lap of his mother. He killed the Putana witch, although she smeared her breasts with poison just to kill the Lord. The Lord sucked her breast like a natural baby, and he sucked out her very life also. Similarly, he lifted the Govardhan hill, just as a boy picks up a frog's umbrella, and stood several days continuously, just to give protection to the residents of Vrindavana. These are some of the superhuman activities of the Lord described in the authoritative Vedic literature such as the Puranas, Itisas, histories, and Upanishads. He has delivered wonderful instructions in the shape of the Bhagavad Gita. He has shown marvelous capacities as a hero, as a householder, as a teacher, and as a renouncer. He is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such authoritative personalities as Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Narada, Madhva, Shankara, Ramanuj, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanatha Chakravarti, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and all other authorities of the line. He himself has declared as much in many places of the authentic literatures. And yet, there's a class of men with demoniac mentality who are always reluctant to accept the Lord as the supreme absolute truth. This is partially due to their poor fund of knowledge and partially due to their stubborn obstinacy, which results from various misdeeds in the past and the present. Such persons could not recognize Lord Krishna even when he was present before them. Another difficulty is that those who depend more on their imperfect senses cannot realize him as the Supreme Lord. Such persons are like the modern scientists. They want to know everything by their experimental knowledge. But it is not possible to know the Supreme Person by imperfect experimental knowledge. He is described herein as adhokshaja, or beyond the range of experimental knowledge. All our senses are imperfect. We claim to observe everything and anything, but we must admit that we can observe things under certain material conditions only, which are also beyond our control. The Lord is beyond the observation of sense perception. Queen Kunti accepts this deficiency of the conditioned soul, especially of the women class who are less intelligent, and I'm going to tap into that one at some point at the end. For less intelligent men, there must be such things as temples, mosques, or churches, so that they may begin to recognize the authority of the Lord and hear about him from authorities in such holy places. For less intelligent men, this beginning of spiritual life is essential, and only foolish men decry the establishment of such places of worship, which are required to raise the standard of spiritual attributes for the mass of people. For less intelligent persons, bowing down before the authority of the Lord, as generally done in the temples, mosques, or churches, is as beneficial as it is for the advanced devotees to meditate upon him by active service. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namani Namaste Krishna Prabhupada Strapane Shri Guru Guru Nishti Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Pashta Deshitadane. If there's something that I say that you have an opinion of, please tack it. Was that Mother Kunti saying that she always has an opinion? Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry, that was. I just pray that I do not offend anyone in whatever it is I'm saying, and I hope that there is something that is being said that is of some help to each and every one of you. And I always ask for the mercy of Guru and Garanga, of Rolora Kalachanji, because they allow us to come before them in our imperfect states and to speak before them, and it is definitely an honor. But I think everyone should have the opportunity to be a part of. I also would like to say and thank each and every one of you for coming today, because the conditions of the weather today are not exactly ideal, and yet you showed up. So the Lord thanks you. I thank you. It's kind of nice when there's someone here, but then again, there's always someone here. The Lord overwhelms us with His presence. So, what to speak of text 20? So I made a couple of notes. I try to stay on track with them, but it gives the example of Maya's energy. I'm going to read a little bit about illusion, but I just like to bring it to the forefront as to the energy of Maya and how we are surrounded with it every single day, how we are all in Maya because we're here. And that's a big statement. It's like some of us have such egos. It's like, oh, I'm not in Maya. I'm too. No, you're not. You're here because you wanted to be like God. And eventually, as you get older, you'll discover you're not God, and the most perfect service you can have is to acknowledge the fact that God is God, there's only one of Him, and our eternal position is to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. It is ultimately to serve Him. So, trying to stay on track, I wanted to familiarize myself and others again with how the Bhagavad Gita in text 7, chapter 7, text 27, addresses Maya and its illusory energies. Those of you that have your text, feel free to read right along. But let's see, text 27, Icha Dvesha Samutina Vanda Moina Bharata Sarvabhutanam Samoham Sajayanti Paratapa. And what it's describing or saying is, O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe. All living entities have been, are, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. And sometimes when we use the word subordination, because it's so misused in the material world, we think, oh, someone's stepping on my head or someone's making me less than I am. But to be in subordination of the Lord is an honor, because he is the most perfect, supreme, absolute truth. And I can't think of anyone, and I've learned this over time, there's no one I would rather be more subordinate to than Lord Krishna, because he knows me from past, present, and future, and I trust him implicitly. Again, the real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, which we are, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. And if you think about the world and its conditions, it's either from mass desire or from mass hate. Now, this is me speaking. These are my thoughts also, so I'm sharing my thoughts. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Sri Krishna appears by his internal potencies. But those who are deluded by duality and nescience think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonest and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc., thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish, and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Before I studied Krishna consciousness, I came from a different background, but a God-conscious background nonetheless, and it talks about intelligence. And you would think most people that go through the educational system have some degree of intelligence, but I got to tell you, I was so into who I was and so puffed up that I thought that I could make this arrangement with the Lord where I could live forever and he wouldn't let me die. And that was my mindset. And there are even more it would be unfair to say ridiculous mindsets, but there are so many other mindsets where we are so deluded to think we're this, we're that, you are this, you are not that. And the basis of everything that is going on in the world, the basis of everything that is going on in the world is the fact that we're an illusion. Why are we having military issues in other countries? Why are we having social and economic issues here and in other countries? We think we own this land. We think we have complete control over other individuals, how they can live, how they can control their lives, right down to the point where how they can control their bodies. We are constantly in illusion, but we don't realize it. Each and every one of you that's sitting here is fortunate enough to have an opportunity to be presented or to have access to literature that Srila Prabhupada has so diligently and graciously put together at a point in time when most people are actually just coasting through life and chilling out. He's given us the scriptures to understand who we are, what we're about, what we need to do to even exist in this world as polluted and deteriorated as it's becoming. And I say that to say that yes, we're in Kali Yuga, but it does not mean we cannot get through this world. There are going to be times in your life where things are so intense, it's almost like you're hanging on by the skin of your teeth, but hang on by the skin of your teeth. Hang on by the skin of your teeth, by the mercy of Krishna. We can get through anything. What helps us is to establish an understanding of who Krishna is, to understand our relationship with him, and if we are fortunate enough, we might even get some pastimes of who we were, if we're fortunate enough, but that's not the key thing. The key thing is to understand that we have a relationship with Krishna, that we're not necessarily from this culture or this country or that family or this family. Whenever I'm up here, I probably beat most of us, you, over the head with the fact that we are one big family. We are one big family because we have to remember that Parameshwar, Krishna, is not only surrounding us, he is always present, but he is in each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. We are part and parcel of him. We lose intelligence when we think that we are separate from this particular group or that particular group. And what is interesting is that the mindset sometimes comes from those that are the most learned in the scriptures. And that's across the board of all bona fide religions. We understand the text, we understand the essence of it, but somewhere along the line we forget. We forget that we are one. And it would be so simple to think that when the world realizes that we're all one family, that this country doesn't own that, and that you have no right to want to do this to this other entity or this other country, we could get along so much better. We have so much information at the tips of our fingers, and it does not take an army of devotees, of God-conscious people to effect a change. Srila Prabhupada left this nectar in our hand. He could have done all of this. He could have completed it, but he left it up to us to do it. I feel responsible for it not being where it is, and we should all, to some extent, feel that we can do more, that we have to do more, that the conditions exist in this world that we must do more, otherwise we're doomed. But what keeps me grounded is the association of devotees. They may not necessarily be in my immediate surroundings, but the point is we have to have the association of devotees to survive. We can have all the nectar, all the knowledge, but if you're not surrounded by like-minded individuals, we're in trouble. Now, the point that I wanted to make is a point that is really sensitive with those in the female body. It's here, and for some reason I think I need to tap into it. It talks about, and if you have comments, hold them until I'm done, but It speaks of the women class being less intelligent. Think about this. Then it follows up with, and this is right. I've read the scriptures. I've read Srimad Bhagavatam a couple of times. But the nice part about reading the scriptures is that each time you read it, you pick up something different. I didn't have to pick up this to understand the point that I'm going to make, but it speaks of the less intelligent men. Unfortunately, people run with the fact that women are less intelligent than the scriptures. We have all been a different sex at some point in time. Men have been women, women have been men. Face it, you have at some point been that. But even in the scriptures, it brings home the fact that Kunti, Mother Kunti, even though she recognized the Lord as her nephew, where is it? Was it in 18? Yes. Oh, yes. Text 18. The translation brings this point home. Srimati Kunti said, O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You're existing both within and without everything. Yet you are invisible to all. Does this sound like an unintelligent individual? We have to realize that as the scripture is giving us information, listen to all of it. Don't take one point and run with it. Real quick, in the business world, they had this process where if someone of a higher standing made a really unintelligent decision, they would take sometimes a female as a comparison, and even though she was in right standing and right intelligence, they would pit the two against the other, and the female would end up being the lesser person. Now, I know that's a broad statement, but the point is, sometimes to save face for someone else, we sacrifice people. I'm not saying that's in the scriptures. I'm just saying I have been privy to scenarios where that happens. What I'm saying is, read your scriptures. There is nowhere in the scriptures where Krishna treats a particular sex inferior to the other. There is nowhere that Srila Prabhupada treated the opposite sex of the females inferior. And this is just a quick point. I don't want to belabor it. But the point is, it's so important to read the scriptures. It's so important to read it over again. What is most important is that we have to realize our lives are surrounded by illusory energy. We are at a point now in life where they're taking away books that have some meaning, that are important. They're taking away even the ability for us to speak one-on-one. That communication level that I was so privy to decades ago, where we could pick up a phone and talk to someone, or you could come to my house or I could come to yours and we could speak. It's gradually being taken away from us, and we're losing the ability to communicate with each other. Devotees should be aware of that. We should be tapping into the fact that if nobody else does it, we need to keep this going. We need to keep a family unit going. We are a part of a massive family. Don't let the things that are going on around you think that this is really the way it is. This is illusory energy. What helps you stay on target, what helps you stay in control of your intelligence is, something as simple as read your scriptures. If you don't understand it, we have devotees around us that are senior disciples, some that are not, that understand the scriptures. We need to understand that just because we're in a particular position does not mean we're locked in it. The scriptures have given us the information that whether or not we're chandalas, malechas, or dog eaters, it does not mean that is the position in life that we're locked into. But some of us, covered in illusory energy, see each other as, oh, that's who you are, and that's who you're going to be forever. It's not true. When we look at each other and we try to look at each other and find our highest good or the God-like energy in us, we are on a roll. We are in such a position to affect a change in the world. And you know how that little spark of a flame can start a massive fire? That's us. That is us. That is for every sincere, God-conscious person. We can affect a change even where we are. We need to understand the energy that surrounds us, and we need to rise above it and realize that we are in this world, but we're not of it. We are definitely not of this world. Take advantage of the scriptures. Srila Prabhupada left basic instructions. And sometimes the most simple things are the most complicated. Read, chant, association. When you have the opportunity, take shelter, take association of learned souls. Very simple. But with all the confusion that's going on in the world, we lose track. Try not to lose track. Stay focused, stay on target, stay on task. We are one big family. We should act as one. We should try to, whenever we have the opportunity, lift each other up. I always find that whenever I'm feeling like, oh, there's an imperfect moment, if I turn my attention to someone else's issue, I rise above it, or I rise with it. So we all need each other. But we need to realize the things that we're seeing, the majority of it is illusory energy. Sometimes what we're feeling is illusory energy. Dare I say that I'm not really cold? That's this material body reflecting the energy. The soul does not. Soul's not affected. So it is important to be mindful of Maya, material energy. It can be overwhelming. It can be so strong that we're like stuck. Don't allow yourselves to be that way. We have many opportunities to remove ourselves from it. Take advantage of the scriptures. Take advantage of the fact that we're in a place, in a world where we can chant and have free will and worship the way we choose to worship. Think about the other countries where you can't. I can't even fathom that. But we're fortunate. Let's take advantage of it. So if it's not necessary, we don't have to come back through and repeat this again. So let's see, how am I on track of the time, which I usually go overboard. Oh yeah, we're good. So I'm going to end at this point. Anyone have any comments or things that you want to share, any realizations or insights or anything? Please feel free to do so.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class. I was really appreciating your point that in nowhere do we see Krishna or Srila Prabhupada treating people lesser because of their gender. And I was thinking about at the Kanishta platform, we're stuck on this bodily platform. Yes. Not only by gender, but maybe by age or positions people have. And we really must come up from that Kanishta platform to start to see people for the service that they're doing, the devotion in their life and the practices that they're doing. Because it only causes problems when we stay at the Kanishta level. Matter of fact, it says, right, that when the Kanishta tries to preach, they only cause more problems, really. You know? And we're a preaching movement, so we must get off of this Kanishta platform and start to see people for and appreciate them for the devotional service they're doing. That's what came up to mind. So I was really appreciating your point
Thank you
about
so
Krishna and
much.
Srila
Good
Prabhupada.
point. Very good point. Very detailed.
I was appreciating. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for giving class.
Oh,
It's
thank
I
you
was
for
appreci-
tolerating me.
oh no. Please, it's the other way. But we always emphasize the difference, but we forgot the oneness, and so I
Yes,
very
we
much
do.
appreciate.
Yes, we do. If we could just focus on that oneness and not so much the difference, but man created that difference. Another comment?
I appreciated you were making this point of how kind of the world is like on kind of this brink of disaster, and we have to do more, we can do more, but then you also countered it by saying we can be grounded in it. Because I found myself like, just yesterday or the day before, just on the internet seeing like all the ways that like this world is just like falling apart and all the disastrous things that are happening. So it kind of like, I get ungrounded. But then I appreciate your point that with association, we still keep in mind that we have to do more, we can do more, but we don't get like taken away.
Absolutely. And when we're fortunate enough to realize that we're surrounded by people that can assist us, that should carry us. And in this particular temple, we have so many people that you can fall back and lean on. Just reach out to them. And if you can't find them, ask Krishna for them. He'll present them to you. Thank you. Very good point. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I had two questions. One's the first quick question. I had to leave, so I came back, and you were reading from a purport about desire and hate. What purport was that?
7 chapter 27 text of
Oh, that
Bhagavad
verse.
Gita.
Okay.
Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. And another question, and this is a question I was asked yesterday by an aspiring devotee, and it's a question that's not. It's just something that I would like to hear your feedback, your perspective, as well as everyone's perspective here. For example, right now, if I take out a measuring tape, I can measure the distance between you and me as being maybe 8 feet, okay, or 10 feet. If I take a measuring tape and I measure a distance between, let's say, to the back of the temple room, let's say it's 20 feet.
Okay.
Okay. So now, if you tell me that according to the scriptures, I'm closer to the back of the temple room than I am to you, and I say, no, I just took out the measuring tape, and it shows it's farther away. And you say to me, well, if you don't believe that it says in the scriptures it's closer, then you're not a devotee of Krishna. You're a heretic, So when we read in the scriptures that the sun is closer to the earth than the moon, how do we, deal with that?
That's a good question. How do we deal with that? Very good question. We understand that with our senses, we should be able to look up at the sky and see the actual massiveness of the sun or the moon. Our senses cannot pick it up. In this material world, we are covered with illusory energy. And not that I know everything, because God knows I don't. Lord knows I don't. But my thought on this, just to bring it home, is to understand the very fact that, yes, if you take a measuring tape and see the distance between you and I is certain 8 feet, and then back of the temple is 20 feet, we're covered. We're covered with illusory energy, but for the purpose of existing in the world, yes, we can accept those things. What we have to hold true to are the principles of relationships and reality in its pureness form, in the very fact that whatever it is that you're trying to understand to some degree that it is covered. Understand that when you take to the scriptures, when you develop a relationship, when you develop an understanding of who you are, of what your potential is, what your limitations are, everything that you view and see, you will view it with the understanding that to see it in its purest form, you have to come from a place of a devotee or of a God-conscious individual and realize that everything is not as it appears to be. But if you use the scriptures as a basis of evaluating people and evaluating scenarios, we could understand better. This whole world is based on confusion and illusion. If we try not to over-understand or over-underestimate or over-analyze, stick with the simple. Stick with the principles that are most important to us and use the groundwork of the scriptures to analyze, to understand, and to see things as they really are. Because if you use your material eyes, you're going to be off track. It's okay to be off track on the distance between you and I and the back of the temple room. It is not good to be off track on what your relationship is to each and every individual in this room, because whatever you see is not really what you're seeing. Look at everyone with the understanding that Krishna is in the heart. We are connected. Try to see the godlike principle or personality in them. And to me, that would be a good start in how to interact and understand the world around us. Now, I have a very serious habit of going and doing a roundabout response to questions. But that would be my response to what you just asked me. And I hope it answered you, and if not, I pray that I will come to an understanding that makes sense to you. And to me, too.
No, thank you very much. I really appreciated and it sparked in me, what you said. I'm just putting in my own words what you said, that this is a world of illusion. It's a world of bewilderment. And Krishna's, set things up in such a way that we will be bewildered. And that, the prescriptive is more important than the descriptive.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. I like these questions that make me think.
I could add, if it would be okay.
Of course.
I was recently in Vrindavan, and one of the offenses to the Holy Dham is try to measure it with our material senses. Because when we're in the Holy Dham, we'll hear these stories of Krishna, and they did this activity, and then the same day he did this activity. And you're like, well, I just drove a rickshaw for 45 minutes. How is Krishna, going back and forth with no ease in the same hour or whatever? But the understanding is that Vrindavan is like a lotus flower, which is opening and closing to the desires of Krishna. So sometimes it looks like it's far, but when Krishna has desires, then the lotus closes and becomes smaller. So similarly, my thought was adding to what Prabhu was saying, that through our material senses, we're not understanding these things. We're clouded. But if we understand that through our spiritual senses, that there's things happening that we don't see, that we can't conceive of. And so, I don't know if that helps, but we could see that the perception of distance through our material senses isn't so beneficial sometimes, I guess.
Just real quickly responding to what you said, like even the perception of distance is inconceivable. Because if I draw a line between you and me, the same number of points are there as between me and New York City, because it's infinite. You know, so how can that be? You know, so it doesn't make sense even materially speaking.
That is so interesting. Sananda Braj, we know you've been to Vrindavan. you were just emanating the energy,
I just thought it was
the
interesting.
thoughts. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class. Just carrying forward the point that you mentioned about illusion, right? It is all of us, we know that we all have, or we are afflicted by the 4 defects, MIDC, that's the abbreviation I make.
Yes.
We all make mistake and we have illusion, you know, and we have defective senses and cheating propensity.
Yes.
So example that is given is the stick, you know, when it is put in water, it appears to have been bent, but actually it is not. So the stick is put in the water, it appears to have been bent.
Yeah.
It doesn't look straight. So that is the defective senses we have, right? Then I was thinking, as you said in Brahma Samhita, Devi Mahesh Hari Dama Suteshatesh. So Lord Shiva's abode is said to be situated above this, you know, Devi Dham, right? Mother Durga's abode. But we also know the Kailash Dham is situated in somewhere in Himalayan mountains, right? So there are different dimensions. So in Mahabharata also it is mentioned, Pandavas, Bhima especially, he happened to enter into Lord Shiva's abode. So there are dimensions where you enter into one particular place, but that place may not be, you know, from material standards, the distance may not be the same. It is situated very, very far away, farther away, right? Like we're sitting here right now, and we could get tuned to, you know, running commentary of some sports game or something going on miles and miles away.
Yeah.
Right. So I was also thinking, if you look at the map, the world map, the global map, there is United States, which is situated on the farther west, and there is Japan, which is said to be the farther east, right? But if you look at it from another angle, which is a globe, the distance between the two countries is hardly 10,000 kilometers. But on the map, if you see, the distance appears to be so long. It is like 2 different corners, 2 different ends. Right. So that is the point that probably today's scientists they miss, because they have defective senses, and with their limited defective senses, they're trying to understand the unlimited and the most perfect creation of the Supreme Lord.
Very good point.
And one more point, Srila Prabhupada said, simple logic, Sunday comes before Monday.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. So thank you so much for participating. It is always good to be in the association of devotees, to be in the association of like-minded individuals. It should strengthen us and help us to keep making that step further. Back home, back to Godhead. Not that that's necessarily our goal, because if we stay on the path, we're going anyway. But the point is to share what we have with someone else and take someone else along with us. So thank you so much for your participation. Thank you so much for being here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shri Shri Radhakala Chandji Dham ki jai.
usually then at the 64-ounce grain, what is it, 32-ounce grain, whatever. He said all our women in this time that are chanting Krishna and promoting and spreading Krishna consciousness have 64-ounce grain.